for me to share today was just to share my story. And I think that's what I'm going to do. Hopefully it'll inspire you in some work I have done. And I'm going to pull up my presentation, so bear with me. Okay, this is there it is. Oh, there we go. So this is where we are today, 2024, and this is your event. And like every event we plan, what actually happens is a little different. I was supposed to be there eating lunch with you and meeting all of your wonderful faces and having a connection, but here we are virtually. And I think it's also for good. So that's my attitude of life, is everything happens for a good reason. I just don't understand sometimes why. So my name is Maloo. I'm an architect and educator. And if you don't know who I am and what I do is what I'm going to try to explain. And the most important is why I do what I do. I think you all are young in your career. You're starting out as researchers. I believe everybody does research in some form, even if you're an accomplished doctor, if you're a student, and if you're a researcher. But the question is why we do what we do. Why do I do what I do? So I'll start with my story, and then hopefully you can fill in the blanks for yourself why you do what you do. For me, education has been like the mantra, or like the theme of my story is the most powerful weapon. And this particular slogan really sits with me. What you're seeing is the picture of me and my students during the pandemic, or just, I think, during those wonderful days where we all were masked up, didn't know what future will lead. But why is education important? Why is the purpose important than what we do? The purpose is very important because that lets you get up every day, innovate, walk in the snow like you did today, didn't bail on Dr. Simone, came and ate the wonderful food, understand that things don't actually go the right way. We're going to move on because what is important is you're together. You came here for a very purposeful meeting and you're going to do it. So for me, it has always been education. And now education is a very broad word. I'm a professor. I'm a professor at Howard University. If you don't know, Howard University is a historically Black college, which is right down actually 15 minutes away from you all. And then the question comes is, okay, I'm a professor, I'm an educator. So, but what should I do? I wore the hat of an educator. Then what do I do? And what should I do and what shouldn't I do? So there are two things you always are in a crossroad. What should I do? What shouldn't I do? You could have chose not to come from the hotel to come to eat. All you had to say was, you know what? I don't feel good. You could have chose not to get on that flight to come for this event, but you did. So as an educator, what should I do? So, and when to do it? These are another big questions. And I like this quote, and I thought I'll share this with you. The time is always right. What to do, what is right. So if you're waiting for the perfect time, let's say to do something, it's now, if it is right. So what should you do? Do what is right. When should you do it? Do it now, when the time is right. I think great leaders help you to innovate. But why do all this? Because for all of these reasons, I thought this is a really nice chart. You want to make money. You want to increase your net value. You want to have family. You want to have generational wealth, generational education. You want to give back to the wonderful world which got you in. So if that is the reason, then how do you go about it? So remember, why you do, what should you do, and when should you do it? And if anyone in that room is going to tell me that you're not aiming to get money, then you're wrong. You should have net income. You should have a net worth. You should have cash. You should have more than what is written. You should have some type of family. You should have growth. And it never stops. When I talk to Dr. Simone on the phone, oh my goodness, what a wonderful story. What a wonderful career she's had. What a wonderful story you guys have. And so we all have stories, and that's what I'm going to do. So ultimately, what I want you to understand from my keynote today is one thing which has always helped me, and I think Dr. Simone has also brought this out. Your net worth is your net worth. And the question is, how do you value your network? And if you don't, how can you cultivate it? And how do you value it so that it becomes priceless? So you can see that relationship in my story. And I hope at the end, I hope some of you ask me or ask me questions. Did it work or did it not work? My story. So I skipped it. Okay, I think I skipped one. Okay, it's okay. So this is who I am right now. What you see is the map of my net worth. These are the places I've gone. These are the places I've spoken. These are the places I have friends. These are the places I have research. These are the places, some of the places. Okay. Maybe you think it's significant. Maybe you don't. It's okay. But this is who I am. The red dots are my new courses, my research, my course collaboration. The blue dots are where I've been spoken. I speak a lot. Again, I'm an educator. I love education. When I see my students, when I see anybody listening, I get power from that. It's kind of a silly thing. I get power from people listening. Do you get power when people are listening to you? That is the key. So what have I done? What makes me even important? I've done about 1,000+ students. I have 50+ university collaboration. I have 250 interdisciplinary research. I have done more than 50+ or 100+. And this is important to me. I've raised, at this point, this 50,000 has become 100,000 for my students, just for my students to study on my own. And I'm just an educator. Let me put it that. I am not Oprah. I am not Martin Luther King. I am not a politician. I am just an educator. So again, how do I do it? Why do I do it? Because there's power in you guys. There's a power in students which I feed off. This is just a map of all my students, just to show you they come from every single continent, actually 140 continents. And I have another graph, which I didn't put today. And I touch them in different ways. And the beauty of it is they go back and then they have their little bubble and then they invite me back. So my students are my net worth. I am their net worth. We become, in conjugation, a cumulative network. So where am I going with this story? Let's start from the beginning. Where did I start? I was educated in India, where women were not educated during my time. And my mother was brave enough and said, why not? Why not she, as a daughter, should not be educated? You like colonialism or not? One thing they did is bring English to your country. So India had English. So I learned English at a very young age. I'm not going to go through all my stories, but I became an architect. And guess what? One of the things as Indian cultures do, we get married. We don't have a choice at that stage. And I got married and shipped off to America. How cool is that? That was my first flight ever. I didn't choose to be in America. I was shipped to America. So then I said, what can I do now that I have the experience of the East? which is invaluable for an architect because I've seen the buildings. I was a licensed and a practicing architect in India. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be that in America. And then I went through the hardships of American education. And then I said, what is going to be my theme? So I came up with 3 little slogans, which is going to be my theme. It's architecture, climate change, and society. And I said, how can I connect all these 3 dots? The first thing I worked very hard. I became a licensed architect. I have my own company called Showcase Architects. I'm licensed and I practice in Maryland and Virginia. So if you have a house you want to design, I can design it beautifully and build it for you. I developed my own project. And then climate change is very dear to me because in 2000, when I was building a lot of sustainability, the word sustainability, no one would listen. And I said, you know what? If no one listens, I'm going to be the change agent. And then comes society. I come from a underdeveloped country or a developing country by UN, right? India. And I come to the most developed country just to find inequalities beyond what I can see. So I said, how can you design and be a professional without the society? So to marry all that, I picked a career which will complement what I do is education and will help me propagate what I want. So I created the first climate change course in architecture called Environmental Justice and Decarbonization. And I won the Buell Course Development Prize. If you don't know who Buell is, it's in Columbia. Columbia University issues a cash prize for any faculty which can create change in the curriculum. And I was able to do that. So I did that. And the whole question is climate change is real, but we're not doing anything about it. We're not doing anything about it because we think somebody else is going to do it. So my whole curriculum is, if I can create courses and empower the younger generation and put it in the curriculum, then we will have an impact which is like compound interest. It's like if you save money today, it's going to have a compound interest when you retire. And that's what I betted. And I think I've been successful. So we know, and this is my big issue. For me, environmental justice is global injustice, right? Climate change is the total global injustice. It is so wrong for us to leave or shape what is happening in the earth and not think we're going to do something to make it better. And all of you are researchers, so I'm empowering you to walk with me this walk. Why is it important? Again, I'm going to go through some of the stuff which you may know, but it's always good to reiterate. Black communities bear a disproportionate burden of harmful impacts of continued fossil fuel. It's proven, there is statistics, I'm not going to go over all that. So coming to the 3 things I was talking about, one is climate, one is what is environmental justice, and then the social movement. If you look up the definition of environmental justice, you're going to get a word cloud like something like this. You can pick and choose what you want, and then you can blindside what you don't want. That's how we work. If we want to eat ice cream, we're going to justify in ourselves that ice cream is good for us because, hey, I want to sit on the couch, I work very hard. Hey, I didn't eat ice cream yesterday, or I won't eat ice cream tomorrow. But even though ice cream is not a good element for you, for a diet to be healthy. So environmental justice is similar to that because when we do work, and you can take it to every single field in the world, including research, education, anything, environmental justice applies. And I take it to buildings, right? I was having this conversation with my students. How can I go around and look at every building and design a building and have a checklist that this building was designed right? How can I say it was right for the people and the right for the climate? And it's right for my and my grandkids and your grandkids, or the who are going to inherit this earth. Did I do it right? You can say the same questions when you do your research, right? You're all solar researchers. Am I using the sun energy, which is free, rightly? Am I being honest in my research? Or am I wanting a result and faking a result? Am I seeing the numbers as it is? All of that is justice. So the definition of justice, there's many definitions of justice. If you don't know, is something which is universal, something which goes beyond boundaries, race, or culture. Justice is the right for everybody. It has no boundaries. And so is environment. And that is the most amazing thing. They say the most important things in life are free. Sun is free. Snow is free. Right? Water is free. Everything which is free is so valuable. And then we create this complex environment. So how do we get to this? Again, I can't do it alone. So I'm going to implore you in your own research, try to embrace some points or even a single point from what I say today into your daily aspects of research, life, and beyond. So again, environmental justice, one part is health. And you know, some of us are wearing masks, I see in the room. One thing the pandemic has taught is viruses, bacteria, any types of disease does not see any boundaries. It does not see race. It does not see even if you're a human or an animal. It sees just one thing: you are alive. That's it. Life as a whole is one health. To have a holistic health, you need to get everything together. So what did I do? You all know this, but in case you don't know, why did I create a course called Environmental Justice and combine it with decarbonization, which is kind of like, how does this fit together? If you don't know, buildings are responsible for 40%. And guess what? It's the silent one. We are trying to do EV cars, but we don't want to talk about the big white elephant, which is the buildings. So I'm an architect. Building is my cup of tea. So that makes sense. We talked about this, moving on. So it is good to go 100% carbon free, but do I think that's the only solution? No. I think we need to do research. We need to come up with more. So moving on, and this is statistics about decarb. I'm not going to go this, but I'll go with this one. So decarbonization of building, that means how can I make carbon-free building today, is much more possible than 10, 15 years ago. Why? One, the younger generation want it. That is a beautiful thing. This movement about going to a carbon-free grid is not a top-down movement. It's a bottom-up movement. It is my students who want to attend my class. They are, I have to tell my students, I have to put a cutoff on my class because I have so many students who want to take my class. It's a very amazing position to be, where you are not inspiring students. Students are inspiring you. They want to do better. They are like, bygones, bygones, tell us how to help. That's it. So this is why you guys are so wonderful. How do you do, in a nutshell, how do you do decarbonization? I have a project here from my student. I don't know if I have time to show it. If not, I'll just skip over it. But basically, what you do is you take the building, like right now you're sitting in a UDC building. It is not a decarbonized building. I know it has some solar. I've been to UDC campus. So if we were to decarbonize that building, the first thing you have to do is make it energy efficient. Second thing you have to do, you have to get some type of renewable energy. That is your solar, wind, geo, whatever it may take. And the last thing you will do is do the carbon calculation and then remove it. Now, can there be a building? So this is the process. You take a typical building, you make it low energy, make it all electric, and then you decarbonize. Sounds simple. Then why don't we do it? There's a lot more magic to that than what we think. So moving on, there's a lot of terminologies. I'm not going to go with it. I'll go with architectural considerations. How do you make a building decarbonize? You can do insulation. You can do high performance, energy efficient lighting, thermal mass. You can do orientation and then shading. These are like very easy things to do. We have time, we'll come to it. And then you have the carbon component, embodied carbon and operational carbon, right? The word C, the carbon, the big C, which element has the most? Concrete does. And that's why buildings have so much carbon. And then which is the second element? You guys are warm there because of the mechanical system. And what is it doing right now? It is using carbon. It has a lot of operational carbon, it has a lot of embodied carbon. So if you are trying to make a building carbon-free, you have to go from a typical building to a high-performance building. And these are the different classifications of concrete, steel, and wood, and how much carbon they have. I'm not going to go over the MEP system. I'm going to move on. What I want to stop at is, okay, here's your solar. So you are all efficient in solar, so I'm not going to go over it. But what is interesting about solar efficiency and carbon is the cost of utility and the grid interactivity. I don't know what your personal research is, but I will implore you guys look at how are you going to use solar to solve the grid problem. I just came from India last year, and one of the big researchers told me, I don't know if you know, there's a place called Bombay or Mumbai. There's 100% solar. Guess what happened? The whole city had a blackout. And so now they're all scratching their heads. Okay, you all wanted us to go 100% solar. We did. And guess what? All the power stations shut down. Why? Because every single home produced so much electricity, which they did not anticipate. And you all are researchers, you know how solar works. Energy cannot be made, so you're transferring from point A to point B. And if you cannot do the math or anticipate how much energy this particular city is going to do, how are you going to manage energy? So that is what is coming to us. So I'm just saying, if you have not started a research on that, it's a great topic. I'll be happy to collaborate with anybody because cities is dear to me. But I don't know the nitty-gritty part of how grid interactivity works, but I know there is not a solution yet. So one of the wonderful things about human mankind is we innovate. So I also feel very fortunate to be talking to you because you are the future. You are going to create the next Tesla. Let me put it that way. Research creates innovation. And so every single problem is a beautiful challenge. Think of every single problem as a beautiful challenge, and then I feel it'll be good. And so what is your story? So I will complete to say how I did my story. So I came to America, I became a licensed architect. I joined Howard University I'm not going to go into background of why I joined, but it felt the right purpose to empower Black students to lead in architecture. It sounds so easy to do. And then I looked at the statistics. In America, there are 110,000 Black licensed, 110,000 architects. And guess how many Black architects are there? 2,500, less than 3%. Then I said, okay, this doesn't make sense. Let me look at the women factor. There were 300 women of color who were licensed in America, and they have been keeping record for 110 years. So I'm thinking and scratching my head. Okay, I came from a developing country called India to the most developed country to find statistics which are beyond believable. So I took it as my purpose. So I now educate because I want to change the story. So the future generation doesn't say, oh, we still have less than 3% or 5% of people of color representing architecture. Now, that is my cup of tea, which I chose to drink. You may choose, you have chosen to drink solar, maybe something else. It doesn't matter. What you do makes a difference, because I'm telling you what I do made a difference. I am a keynote speaker. How does that happen? I am not, and the reason I say this is I am not a doctor. I am a licensed architect. And I got the highest honor to be a fellow. Now, fellow in engineering, fellow in architecture is the highest contribution you can do for architecture. So then you should be thinking and scratching, how did you do it? And I'm going to tell you my story. It was people. It was people and purpose. The two things, if you have, you will find your way. And I found my way. So the people were my students. The people were my colleagues. Your people right now is people around you. All those people in that room is your network. Every single one of them, you should get their emails and say, hey, this is where we met. And after the conference, write an email to them saying, it was wonderful meeting you. And that's what I did. I went to every conference I could go with what my money can stretch. I smiled with every person, even the person who didn't want to collaborate. When people say no, it really empowers me, because I'm like, oh, great, you said a no. That means I'm doing right. I've heard more no's than yeses in my life, and I know you're going to hear that too. So this is my decarb presentation. I'm going to move on to something which is also simple and very hard to do. This whole idea of carbon offsets. Carbon offsets is interesting. Now there's this huge uproar. We need to remove carbon. If you don't know why, I'll tell you why at the end. How do we do it? And if someone comes and walks up to you and says, oh, I've made some building carbon free, I'm carbon positive, and whatever, what is the other terminology we use? Not even building, I've made cities carbon positive. All it means is there's still carbon, but they are managing the accounts somehow else. You know how you do taxes and then you move numbers around? That's similar to that, just how it is. But can you do with carbon offsets the right thing to do? The couple of things which are right to do is planting trees. Number two is your department, solar energy. This is why the Mumbai story I told you is funny, because everybody went solar at the same time. Because every single person wants to be renewable now. Oh, it's good for the conscious, it's good for the politician, it's good for your pockets. Let's do it. And then what happens? And the last is by community based. So I can go ahead and say, I'm going to do solar in Africa, and I get carbon offset, like good points, like, you know, stars in a game. And then I'm suddenly carbon free. Is it the best approach? Yes and no. Can we be better? Yes. Is this the right direction to go? Yes. So what I'm trying to say is, at the end of the day, you, through your research, are going to find beyond what I'm saying today. So I'm charging you to do more, charging you to ask the questions. And this is interesting, this one last slide. I hope I can go 5 minutes over. Why is it important to educate and empower researchers, students, everybody is what I'm going to show you. The impact of a building designer. Again, my field is architecture, so I'm going to go with building. So this is a little math. If I can design 3 buildings in a year and I have a 45-year career length, I can save up to 1.15 million metric tons of carbon dioxide. And if I can make 3 buildings which are decarbonized, I can save that much carbon in one person's lifetime. This is, we're talking about an educated designer. So if you as a solar person or a researcher of renewable energy, you're a mentor or a mentee, your impact is beyond what you think because your career is so big. You're going to touch buildings, you're going to touch other places, you're going to touch things. Think about the first guy who designed the solar panel, what impact it has today. So the impact of education is just beyond the simple thing that I graduated, I became a doctor. It goes to every single person you touch in every way. So just a comparison. If I am just a regular person, I can go about my life. I have 1,200 metric tons of carbon dioxide. But through my career, if I practice architecture, is 1.15 million tons. But look at me, I am much more, what is it, efficient. What did I say? My students are my net. So that person which in this figurine is the black one is me. And if you can think of all these buildings as my students who are going to be architects. So I just quadrupled, maybe 100% more of carbon which I can save. So I chose the career of education because I'm very good at it. I chose the education because my students are wonderful. I chose to teach people how to do environmental justice in every walk of life because they can be my voice. Instead of me sitting in my home, they are going to be my voice everywhere. So this is funny. If you can make every single car, you need 35,707 cars to offset that one person's carbon. So just to give you the impact that EV is different. Oh, this is my students' work. I'm not going to go over it. So we have this class and we did the example. I just want to take any questions if you have, and otherwise I'll show you the example. Do you have any questions before I wrap up? I have a few more slides.
Any questions? No questions.
There were some questions submitted. If anyone who submitted them would like to ask, please feel free.
I stop sharing and I'm going to come back to the slides if we need to.
Yeah. I know someone submitted the question of, in your opinion, what are some of the simplest green building mechanisms that the average person can utilize in their house?
Oh, wow. Awesome question.
Mm.
That's like dear to me. Okay, so I don't know who it is. One of the ways you make a good network is put your name in there, because then I will remember your name, right? So always put your name out there because it doesn't hurt. Anonymous is good, but it's better. I don't know if you're watching the political scenario, but if you watch it, no marketing, no advertising is bad advertising. at the end of the day. So to answer the question of building and what's good, simple things, the most valuable resource is actually water.
Mhm.
If you can take a 5-minute shower, you would have more water for your children. Now, if you cannot take 5 minutes, if you can reduce a minute of your shower time, that is great. So I'll start with the most valuable resource is water, water, water. So when you brush your teeth, don't run that faucet. If you have a leaky thing, close it. Now, in terms of building, if you are to do a good Mother's Day project or your day project or friend day project, you're helping someone or helping your own bill, I would say insulate. Put more insulation. Insulation is the nice, like you're wearing a jacket right now, that's insulation. Put that jacket for your building, right? Put the jacket on the roof, go to your attic, buy some Home Depot, the pink stuff. You can look at like, it looks like cotton candy, that's insulation. Roll a couple of more then out. If you can do that, that's great. Second, buy a thermal imaging camera, take pictures around your envelope, and you will see how much it is leaking.
Mhm.
You will see there are stuff which no one has time to get to, like around your electrical faucet, you can take a little small duct tape and put it. So what I'm trying to say is cut the leaks down. Before you do any innovation, anything to your building, stop the leakage in every shape or form. Change the LED lights, that you all know. So those things are going to make a big difference. And then there is this water. You know, you're going to go with low flow toilets, low flow. Why? One, water bill is actually higher than any electric bill. We just don't know it. You know, we just, like I said, like with environmental justice, we choose to see what we want to see.
Mhm.
And then we can justify what we see. But if we can be like Martin Luther King and the leaders of who have gone about that and see everything for what it is, it'll be awesome. So if you can justify yourself, like, you know what, I'm going to use the dishwasher because water, she keeps preaching to me that water is important. Can you recycle your water? Like you can wash your vegetable, save it and put it for your plants. It's a simple thing. In terms of building energy is first to cut the leaks down. 2 is to insulate. 3, after all you do, when your mechanical system is ready for a change, you go with more high performance HVAC system. Heat pumps are I mean, I can talk about heat pumps all day long, but I don't think this is the right forum to do it. But heat pumps is how you decarbonize. You can go electric, and above all, you're all solar champions. Put solar if you can, if it is. But what I actually want you to charge you is find ways to innovate the grid with renewable energy. I don't know if that helps the person. And if you're willing to come on phone, that'll be really awesome. We can have a talk.
I think so. I mean, that was an amazing point. And I'm like, now I'm going to try to keep my showers under 5 minutes. Yeah. Are there any questions that anyone's had a second to think and try to formulate? I can't tell. Okay.
So I do have a question for you all. Why do you do what you do? What do you feel right now? Why are you doing this particular research? Can a couple of you walk up to the mic or put it in the chat? Why do what you do?
Anybody?
And even if it could be simple, like you know what, I don't know, but I do it. It's okay. But I just want to know why you do what you
You
do.
got one. Can you hear us?
Oh, yes, we can.
All right.
You have to speak to everyone, but we all do this just so we can save, our world.
I can't, sorry, we hear every other word. Can you keep the mic closer or something? Maybe that place has some echo or something.
Oh, it probably has an echo because there are 3 speakers that are producing sound.
Can you hear him, Dr. Simon?
Mhm.
Could you hear?
I could hear him.
Okay, try again, please.
Okay, I was gonna say,
Now we can hear.
great for today, in general, when it comes to clean energy, so that we can save the world, and make sure that our next generations have a cleaner.
Okay, I just heard save the world. After that, what was the next question?
That's about what I got.
Can someone else summarize what you? Yes, save the world. I think it's a good idea. It's a good plan.
Summarize.
Dr. Simon, can you say it again?
I got about as much as you did that time.
Okay, maybe you can put it in the chat. How about that? All I could hear was save the world. Yes, I think it's a great plan to save the world. I love to see Mars, but not to settle in Mars yet. I'm not ready for it.
I know he said to do something to assist future generations. I did get that.
They're gonna use the microphone at the podium.
Oh, yeah, that probably is a better microphone.
Can you hear me better?
Yes, so much
Okay,
better.
so basically just save the world. That's essentially what I said.
So okay, so that's why you do what you do, to save the world.
Yeah.
Oh,
'Cause
that's
I don't
a
want to live
great
on, I don't want to
purpose.
live on Mars either. Like I don't,
I'm with you. I'm with you, buddy. I'm like, you know what? If I can't even say what it is here, I'm not ready to explore. I mean, it's good for movies.
I do have a question earlier.
Yes.
You've heard of those big fans, like those turbulence fans that like fly in the air to remove carbon?
I'm hearing they're innovating right now.
Yeah, so it produces like more carbon. It's like a step backwards than what it is. Like when do you think maybe we'll be ahead of the game, like on the world wise, as in like instead of wasting more energy trying to save energy, it will actually save energy.
So it's a good question. When, I don't know, but I do know we are trying. Let me put it that way. So to answer the question about carbon, one of the most interesting thing about carbon is that it's still no. I'll tell you what's necessary. We don't have a metric actually to quantify the carbon. America has its own metric, Canada has its own metric, Australia has its own metric. So there is not a universal metric because it's just like motor vehicle emissions, right?
Yeah.
Nobody, because once you have the statistics that you're doing bad, then guess what? You have to do something good. So it's like the environmental justice thing we've been talking about, where people wear these glasses and they're like, okay, if I don't measure, I don't have to do anything.
Yeah, I think
So I think go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, the UK was building stuff that like saves about 1 million ton a year, 1 million tons of carbon a year through the propeller, like not propeller, like through those turbulence fans that fly in the air or are on ground. But I don't know how much they produce carbon, but I know they do produce more than 1 million ton of carbon a year to save. Does that make sense?
And so at this point, we are at the stage of life, if you think back, like why history is important, right? I'm just going to say this one antidote. History is important because we learn from the mistakes. We don't want to redo them. That is the main reason why history is important. So having said that, you lived through pandemic, so we wrote history. You and me both wrote history, right? Our next generation, future generation is going to say, oh my God, I cannot believe they did this, right? Like we are talking about all the other stuff. But yes, because of the pandemic, we can have this event just like that. No one is even having a frown. Everyone is like, oh, great, right? The speakers are happy, you guys are happy, you're fed, you know, you're more happier that your events are maybe consolidated and you have more time to actually just chill, which is what most people want to do in a conference. So my thing is, I think we are at the point, this is the best day for researchers. I feel like the day the guy decided, like, when you talk about how airplanes were done, and we talk about how many failures they had before they had that one success. And that one success created this whole world, changed the world. So I feel, so to answer your question about those carbon fans, I think it's a failure, but from that failure comes the next best lesson. It's like a very good research. This is why student and research is so important, and so much more important now than ever before. Because we are at the crux of change, and there is no, how do I say it? It is not a coffee, it's already made. You're gonna have to make your own coffee if you want to drink it. Otherwise, you're ready to freeze. So, which means what type of coffee you want to make. And this is why people of color have to be in this. Because now you can change the course. For once, like, how stars are aligned? Stars are perfectly aligned because of your forefathers, my forefathers' work, the shoulders we stand on. That we have what? Technology, AI, we have empowerment, we have a government which supports you. Most importantly, people support change now. People are ready for change. People want to save the planet. So to that question, I don't know if I answered your question, but to your purpose, I applaud your purpose. I think if every single person gets up in the morning and says, hey, what can I do to save this world? One small thing. Before we know it, compound interest. And that's why I shared my story. My story, I'm just one person. And if one person who had no name can create a name in a developing country to be invited as a keynote speaker, who could be elevated to a fellowship, and FYI, if you have not seen architects, it's the most white profession you've ever been. It's a white male-dominated profession. So you have two gender biases of ceiling you have to clash. But if most of us can understand, you should always look at the facts as it is without emotional component and see how you can find your own journey. So to answer your question about the carbon, the fans, most probably 60% it's a failure. But you need more failures before you get one success. And that one success is going to transform everything. So as researchers, don't get down because you have a failure, because those failures are important. Think about the COVID vaccine we got. How many failures before we had, if we did not invent the COVID vaccine, you believe it or not, maybe it's a placebo, but we opened up the world again.
And with that, Dr. Maloo, I thank you.
Okay, I'll leave it at that.
I appreciate your time today. And can everyone please give her an applause? Thank you. Yes, that was amazing. And you know me, I'm always trying to connect and expand my network. And so I was thinking as you were talking, I said, oh, One Health, I'm on the board of One Health Lessons. Let's see how we can connect on that, So I will be calling you to say, hey, let's get together.
Great. And thank you. And you all can reach me. I'm on LinkedIn. That's the only social media I've actually found friendly to me and my skills, and not have more advertisement than I need to chew. So please, if you want to link up with me, please do.
Namaste.
Namaste. Chill and enjoy this. Thank you, Dr. Simone, and thank you for the team for changing plans and accommodating everybody and still having a smile and a great time.
All right. Thank you.